guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back from the World Cup, an amazing experience in Qatar. Fortunate for the Black Stars. Congratulations to Argentine fans who are on top of the world right now. But unfortunate news coming on our front in terms of the Black Stars, as one of our own, Alexander Djiku, has been banned, yes, for involving himself in betting activities. We'll look at the details of the story today. We're also going to talk about Coach Otto Addo, who in an interview with Forbes talked about how Morocco's success in part opened the eyes to African teams and Asian teams and show the world that these two continents have players that can compete. With the next World Cup we're having as many as 9 African countries and possibly 10 coming in. Otto Addo believes that more African coaches, if given the chance, will do well, and that the bias or the going in for foreign or European coaches is based on biases that have been built on us. We'll listen to that full interview today. As usual, subscribe if you have not. Click on the notification bell to get more updates. We'll start off from the camp of Alexander Djiku, one of the stalwarts in the Ghana defense at the World Cup, in World Cup qualification, partnering so well with Hanela Mate and most recently Mohamed Salih. So I have to say, Djiku, this is the last thing I expected to hear from him, but he has been banned. Why? For betting. That's basically it. Now, the Ghana defender has been shockingly banned by the LFP, League of Professional Footballers in France, after investigations concluded over widespread betting by players and officials. Djiku was part of the Black Stars team at the recent World Cup and was among 76 players, team officials and coaches who were fingered following the investigation. Now, the ban relates to Djiku's betting activities during the 2020-21 season. So 2 seasons ago, they needed to conclude and do thorough investigations before they come out to accuse anyone, and they have come out to conclude that Djiku is guilty. Despite an extensive educational campaign to make players and officials aware of the dangers of being involved in betting on matches, it still happened. 76 people. Players and officials of football are prohibited from betting on matches, whether they are involved on those games or in those games or not, anywhere in the world. The ban does not suggest that he bet on matches involving the Ghana national team, but it damages his clean reputation in the game, as he had been widely seen as a disciplined player. That's quite true. These offenses were committed even though together with the LFP and the UNFP, the Players Union have carried out awareness on information campaigns with the clubs on a daily basis, wrote the LFP in their press release. The commission recalls that the actors of the competitions organized by the FFF or the LFP, in particular the players, coaches, managers of the professional football clubs, have a general ban on betting online or in physical networks on football competitions, whether domestic or foreign. The Strasbourg centre-back will miss the return of the League One matches over the serious offence, and he will be absent for the club clash with Giants PSG because of the ban. The sanction on Djiku will also possibly damage his chances of signing for a new club, as most clubs would be wary of signing players who have the history of being involved in betting. The Professional Football League sanctioned the players, officials and coaches on Monday evening for non-compliance with the sports betting ban during the 2020-21 season. Several League One players were also in that report. The rain of sanctions fell on professional footballers in France, 76 of them, and it's quite unfortunate that our very own Alexander Djiku has been involved in this one here. It was really unfortunate. As you can see here on the league, the football professional, you can see the players, 1 game ban, 2 games ban, 4 game ban. The players all involved in this one here have been given their ban here, 1 game ban, suspension. All these players have been banned in that respect, and it's unfortunate. We find our very own player here in Alexander Djiku. A suspended game, Alexander Djiku finds himself here. Quite unfortunate news on that front for the Ghanaian, who has been a model player for Black Stars since switching to play for us. It's unfortunate this has happened to him. My next story has to do with Coach Otto Addo, who in an interview with Forbes has stated that African coaches really have to be given a chance. He feels that this current World Cup, African coaches were successful. It was a success for African coaches. And now, according to Otto Addo, he says the tournament opened a lot of eyes because people now saw Africa and Asia as teams can compete. I think you could see the impact of the African coaches being connected to the country. Also, tactically, the teams were well prepared, he says in that interview. It sends the right message. It sends the message to create not only your own players, but taking the next step to create your own coach, and also for the federations to believe in their coaches. This hopefully inspires the coaches in Africa to believe in themselves, to grow, and maybe to get a chance to represent their country. The significance has not been lost on CAF. In a statement, it said the 5 African managers leading their nation represents a giant step towards the development of African football. Now, Otto Addo went on to say that the trend of African countries hiring foreign coaches or European coaches was rooted in a long-standing bias. This is what he said. Our history plays a big role in this. When I look at Ghana, and this is what has been taught to my parents, it's always everything good is from Europe, he says. People find it easier to believe people from Europe when they come with a project or with an interesting idea than anyone who comes from their own country. People have to believe in themselves and also believe in their own people. We are role models. So if the FA puts in an African or Ghanaian coach like me, then people will see it and they will believe it. If he can do it, I can do it as well. Otto Addo was born and raised in Germany, wanted to create a culture in his World Cup squad, combining the best things of both worlds. From his parents' visits as a child to Ghana, he was conscious of the role of religion in Ghanaian culture. For example, from his time playing and coaching in Germany, he brought European elements to team building. At the end, it's about credibility. So whatever you say needs to be believed by the players, and it becomes much easier if you know the background and culture of these players. In nurturing an open, collaborative culture built on trust, as other World Cup coaches do, Addo wanted to respect tradition without being beholden to it. Especially young players growing up in Ghana, for example, they are sometimes afraid to ask questions. We wanted to build this open relationship that you can ask questions. You can never ask or criticize the coach if it's reasonable and if it's in a respectful way, he says. This is the environment which you want to create. Nobody should be afraid, even if he has other ideas, to tell it, to speak up. Sometimes the players have good ideas for set pieces or whatever, and I wanted them to bring it out so that they can be integrated in the process. He also hoped to inspire by sharing his own experience as a player at the 2006 World Cup, where Ghana reached the round of 16. He came into our dressing room talking about the legendary Samuel Eto'o, asked to speak to the Ghana players in the World Cup, and he made a wonderful speech about the importance of our game. He said that even though we were playing against Brazil, we should believe in ourselves, Addo says. I had goosebumps when a player from Cameroon would come into the dressing room before the match with a speech about the importance of this game and what it meant not only to Ghana but to Africa. I also told the players this story to explain it's not about you as a player, it's more especially for Africa. It's not just a game, it's also creating a voice for Africa. So an extensive interview with Forbes that Otto Addo had. I'll see if I can find the full version for you, but that is a little bit of what he said in that interview. We have to believe in our own. It's based on the biases we have gotten in our upbringing that we don't really believe in our own. To some extent, Otto Addo is spot on in what he says here in this interview. African coaches need to be given the chance. And as I said yesterday, concerning what Kevin Prince Boateng said about African coaches being discriminated against and not being given opportunities, I think it's rather the other way around. Biases do not allow even Africans to hire their own people to coach their countries because of our upbringing. Everything in Europe is the best, as Otto said. And until some African coach does tremendously well, as Moroccan coach did with his team, it will remain like that. Someone has to break through that barrier because of the biases which have been subtly seeped into our mindsets as we grow up, and I hope we change that narrative. So that has been it for today. Unfortunate news on the front of Alexander Djiku. He has been banned, a suspended game. He will miss just one game, but his reputation has been tarnished. He was involved in sports betting in 2020-21. LFP have announced the results of investigation that has fingered 76 players on their official match officials, coaches, and players. Also been talking about Otto Addo's interview with Forbes and how African coaches in this World Cup have been quite successful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments box on everything. I'll see you guys in the next one. Enjoy your evening.